LinkedIn, no longer on Facebook or Instagram. They deleted all my pages almost a year ago now because of, Pride Month, which is some of the busiest time of the year for my guest coming up next, Arthur Schaper. Yeah, he's back. And he's with massresistance.org. Pride Month is a very busy time for them. They do amazing work exposing the corruption, the crime, the degradation, and the devil's work, as the media is doing that for him through Pride Month and promotion of it, and corporations, big corporations and so on. It's pathetic. It's filthy. And these pride parades that are supposed to be just promoting the lifestyle and making it acceptable and making it normal turn into these freaking orgies in the streets. And children, idiots bring their children to these pride parades where it's nothing about celebrating sexual sin. That's exactly what it is. What it boils down to. I don't want a heterosexual parade. I don't want an adulterer's parade. I don't want a pride being a homosexual parade. I don't want it. I want you to stop focusing on sexual crap and get right with the Lord. We're at the end times, my friend. We are in the end times. This is the time to get close to the Lord. And the Lord's very clear. Read Romans chapter 1. It's one of the first times I really got pulled off Facebook for 30 days because I posted about Romans chapter 1, which is very clear. So if you hear anybody say, oh, it's nothing in the New Testament against homosexuality, that's just the Old Testament. They're lying to you. There's many places where sexual sin, not just homosexuality, sexual sin, period, which fuels the California economy, basically. Sexual sin is rampant. It's so bad. So get right with the Lord, please. I beg you, start reading his word. A chapter a day keeps false teachers away. Find yourself a good body of real Bible believers, not some kind of big mega church where it's all about the presentation and they turn it into a Broadway production. No, thank you. I just want God's word, and I want to get right with the Lord. I want to be on his side. I don't want to be lukewarm either. I don't want him spewing me out of his mouth, as it says in Revelation, either hot or cold. Don't be in between. Even if you're cold, I don't know. Just come on, please. Trust me on this. Trust me on this. Turn your life to the Lord now. Make Christ Jesus your Lord and Savior. I'm a little off topic, but that's the most important topic as far as I'm concerned. So it's just from my heart to yours, and that does come from the heart. I know usually when I start talking this way, I lose viewers. So be it. Even if just one goes, oh, CharLee, maybe you got a good point. Maybe the Holy Spirit has moved in you and in your heart and your mind. You need to get right with the Lord. Get back to him. Now more than ever. Okay. Let's get Arthur Schaper in the mix. The Stop Nick Shirley Act. He's a media guy, as I am, and we're being threatened. We're being completely threatened by Mia Bonta, who's the wife of the Attorney General of California, Rob Bonta. What a complete disaster that clown is. They're trying like crazy to shut us down and shut us up, those of us in the media who are trying to expose all the crime and corruption, like that guy, Nick Shirley.
California Democrats advance Stop Nick Shirley Act to criminalize investigative journalism. So after I expose widespread fraud all across America, and quite frankly, states like Minnesota and California are just the worst at it, letting fraud take place, especially inside of immigrant communities. For instance, the Somalians in Minnesota and then the Armenians in California. And so now they're trying to silence anybody who exposes fraud inside of California. For instance, if this bill is passed, the Quality Learning Center that was in Minnesota would be protected from being exposed. That is absolutely crazy. And the crazy thing about this is the person who's proposing this bill, her name is Mia Bonta. Her husband is the Attorney General of California. And so let's say you expose fraud. This is what could happen to you inside the state of California. You could get a misdemeanor, a $10,000 fine, imprisonment, and your content forced to be deleted. That is absolutely crazy. It is time for people to either stand up or we face mass oppression from those that rule us.
It has passed the Assembly and it goes to the Senate. The Senate will pass it because it's polluted with people like Nancy Pelosi and Scott Wiener and Adam Schiff. It will pass there, and it will go to Governor Hairdo's desk. And I'm telling you, I'm putting $20 down right now that he will sign it into law. And then what happens? I don't know. Let's ask Nick Shirley. The older version of Nick Shirley, the man who's been doing that kind of reporting for many years now. His name is Arthur Schaper on Do Not Talk. Are you ready? Hit it.
I'd be honored to be put in the same, class as Nick Shirley. That man has put his life on the line. Nobody should doubt this. Yeah. He's had death threats. I agree with what it was at Ben Bergquam, he said at the CRA convention in February. It's worse in Minnesota. I know it's hard to believe for all of our California friends and acquaintances who watch us, but Minnesota is worse. The Somali mob, corruption, mass madness is so pervasive. Can you imagine a city like Minneapolis allowing a student leering center and that it existed with that corrupt misspelling in its name and that nobody said anything after all these years? It tells you how bad it is. I'm so grateful, though, for Dr. Oz and J.D. Vance. They have shut down numerous hospices in Los Angeles County. Nick Shirley was talking about that in connection with the Armenians. I've got to speak to the prior thing about people getting the vote out. CharLee, I think your message is resonating. The Republican turnout has exceeded the turnout in 22. There's a whole bunch of reports on this. It's like 41% Democrat, 37% Republican, 22% undecided. I know for LA County, I read a statistic. It's like 7% Republican, 4% Democrat. Democrats, I think this was John Fleischman's take, they are hedging their bets. They're trying to decide what to do because they don't want a two Republican Dem. They don't want the two Republicans shutting out the Dems. They don't know what to go with Steyer or Becerra. And I'm loving every minute of it. I am still seeing on social media people are going to vote for Katie Porter, even though she yells at people and tells them to get out of her effing shot and throws mashed potatoes at people. And she's just a vile, wicked Karen. She's dangerous. And I know, there are going to be people who will still vote for Eric Swalwell, even though he dropped out. They're going to vote for Tony Thurmond, even though he doesn't have a chance. So the optimism is still high, and we're like, a week and a half away from the election. So there's that. But focusing on Nick Shirley, this bill, Assembly Bill 2624, I am stunned. My assemblyman, Elmer Itsuchi, he actually didn't vote, which counts as a no vote. He abstained. I'm stunned. I was convinced he would have voted for this thing, but he didn't vote for it. So I think there's a lot of noise percolating. What you're saying, what a lot of people are saying about this bill is going to fail on its surface. This will be yet another failure for Rob Bonta in federal court. I have a right to photograph people in public. I have a right to show people's addresses because these learning centers advertise themselves publicly, do they not? These daycare centers are supposedly on the up and up. They're public entities. That's
how Nick Shirley knew where they were. All he did was knock on the door and go, "Hey,
all he did was ask the questions," which NBC, ABC, LBJ, ABC, choose your alphabet. Don't LBJ. Want to ask, whatever. So LGBT, whatever that they're going to ask. So this is going to die. This is part of the reason. It's not like I've checked out of California politics, but I don't worry too much about the legislature. It's overrun with these demo rat weirdos. A lot of these bills, they get shut down in federal court, like Protect the Groomers bill, AB 1955. I shoved that. The same state assemblyman, Elmer Itsuchi, I confronted him on that, and I said, this bill failed. You wanted to keep secrets from parents, and it died. This is where we're at. I mean, California is either going to become a vassal state, or they're going to have to turn it into like what the Union did to the Confederacy after the Civil War. I mean, this state's going bankrupt anyway. It's so incompetent they can't even pay its own bills. So,
but yeah, we're giving away thank God for Trump now and free iPads to prisoners. They're still doing the freebie program.
looking
And
at
they're still
filth and
giving the free health
pornography
care
and-
to illegals. This is insane. It's not sustainable. But that's
Nope.
what I've been saying all along, Arthur. That's part of the plan. You
Yes.
crash California, you take out the rest of the country because financially this state collapses. It will affect the rest of the nation. And then you usher in your new world order, your big,
Oh,
great
that's the plan.
reset, your smart cities everywhere. This
Oh.
is what it's all coming down to. I'm convinced of that.
This is one of the reasons I got to put this plug in why I'm not supporting Steve Hilton initially. He was talking about 15-minute cities. Nobody wants to have that discussion, but he did. This guy was very liberal. Trump, he chose his friend. That's just the way it is. I know he had to make sure there was at least one Republican in the general election to ensure the congressional seats would have some support. We'll see what happens. I do know that Nick Shirley is doing God's work. He is making it easier for Republicans to hold on to the House. I think he's made it easier for Republicans to compete even in Minnesota, where all of this fraud is pervasive. All of that fraud, all of these illegals, they're all voting, and then you expose them, and they're getting deported left and right. I'm hearing all this drama from a lot of these woke right panicans, and they're like, well, where's the mass deportations? What's going on here? He is building the wall. The illegals are leaving. How do I know this? The rent has gone down in LA County. All over, the rents are decreasing. That's all you need to know. There's less pressure on the housing market. There's your evidence. Is it fast enough? No, we've got like 30 million running around easy. We got to get rid of all of them. But I'm glad he's making an aggressive push nonetheless. So, that's the easy thing to put out there. The big thing too, speaking of Trump, I just want to launch right into this. I am so grateful for this guy. He is like draining the swamp, not just in Washington, but in the party. I mean, he is getting rid of one rhino after another. This has been a theme I've hit the last couple of weeks. I wrote about the U.S. Senate races. I wrote about how I hope that Trump does the right thing in Texas. He did, and the right outcome happened. It did. Ken Paxton is a national treasure. I don't care about his private life in the past. He has gotten past that. President Trump didn't have a perfect past. None of us have had one, but Ken Paxton has really put the country first. He has been an aggressive advocate. I was thinking if he did become a U.S. Senator, he should definitely become the Attorney General. He has such he's a zealous advocate for the United States. He's a zealous advocate for our Constitution, and that's what you want a lawyer to be. And we're going to have him in the U.S. Senate. This is going to be very exciting. I have no doubt that he's going to be the next U.S. Senator for Texas, and I'm glad that Trump did what he did. It was a very risky move for him to step in and endorse the challenger, because, John Cornyn and Trump never had, had an adverse word between the two of them. John Cornyn would play nice. Now, he had criticized the president, of course, in 2020. He wanted to move beyond Trump in 24, but he never openly, repeatedly attacked him the way that Marjorie Trader Greene did or
Thomas Massey.
Thomas Massey, he tried to keep his head down and say, oh, I support Trump. Trump's a nice guy, whatever. But I'm glad that Trump stepped in and that he endorsed Paxton. Now, I think part of it, of course, is that you just had to look at the read the handwriting on the wall. Cornyn was going to lose. I was there. I mean, I wasn't there, but I remember watching the Texas Republican Party convention. I think it was in 2023, and everybody booed John Cornyn. He pushed through a red flag law. He was pushing all the Ukraine money. He was talking about amnesty. Even after Paxton announced his challenge, you still had Cornyn talking about, oh, I don't want to deport everybody. We need to be compassionate. He would not give up this attachment, this obsession with amnesty and cheap labor and easy borders. I'm just stunned. He wouldn't let it go. He even did commercials in Spanish. Can you imagine this? But this is how out of touch these people are. They just don't get it. They just don't care. And the only way they will get it is if they don't get it, as in they don't get elected again. And that has happened. President Trump, I mean, he threaded the needle perfectly. And you know what? The U.S.
He's like 38 for 38 now, isn't he?
Yes, he is.
Midterm election.
100%. It hasn't, in a lot of places, he's endorsed establishment or the incumbents just because there's nobody challenging. I do like, though, that he's stepping into where there's a chance, he pushes it towards the MAGA way. Getting rid of Cassidy was a big win. That guy was a big thorn in the side when it came to the health freedom to, make America healthy again. He was a big problem with that. I think he was a big opponent of Robert Kennedy as HHS secretary. I don't recall, but I'm not sure about that. I think he was a vocal opponent of that. And of course, he voted to convict Trump. You don't need people like that who are just so out of step and have no regard for their constituents or their interest. I really like this. We're seeing the U.S. Senate feeling the heat now. This is very difficult. And remember, I know you want to step in. Thanks for giving me this this last part.
Go for it.
Trump took a big risk because for him to go after an incumbent, that could jeopardize a majority vote down the line. He had to be really careful about that because he's already got Collins, Murkowski, Tillis, and then you got McConnell already, and now you got Cassidy and Cornyn. So there's some problems here. I don't know what's going to happen between now and the rest of the year. I certainly hope that there's enough pressure on John Thune. Maybe he'll get so miserable, but he's a big part of the problem. You see a conference that is still not willing to understand. We're done with playing nice, losing gracefully, playing by the rules while the left wants to destroy this country. And we see one rhino after another getting knocked off. This is good. I'm glad to see it. And Trump took a risk, and I'm glad he did it.
What are your thoughts on this? I don't put a lot of stock in polling because we see it being wrong again and again and again. But the polling between Sheriff Bianco and Steve Hilton as Republican gubernatorial candidates was pretty much neck and neck. One would pull ahead a couple of points. They were all split. At one point, they were both about 20, 24 total between the two, but they were so neck and neck. So much so that the voting at the California Republican Convention in San Diego that I was at about a month and a half ago, we didn't even endorse either candidate because neither one could get 60% of the vote. And that's the requirement with the party to be able to get our endorsement. You have to get at least 60%. Neither one could because the voting was so close. And so we wound up not endorsing anybody, which I think was a dismal, ridiculous failure. We should have endorsed both. Should have been a dual endorsement, but that's me. I had many in the party who disagreed with that. But since President Trump has come out and endorsed Steve Hilton, it has doubled Steve Hilton's polling, and Sheriff Bianco has dropped down to like 10, 11, 12%, and Hilton's like 20 something. It was effective. But in California, I'm hearing everybody saying, oh, that's the kiss of death. If Trump endorses you, that's the kiss of death. He really wants Bianco, so he endorsed Hilton. So everybody.
Yeah, I know.
I don't know how true that is. What do you think?
See, I wanted to, thanks for letting, I shared the screen. Here is, here's a campaign sign I saw in somebody's yard right here in the city of Torrance. I have seen 2 Bianco signs. And here in the city of Torrance, a lot of people aren't really attuned to the governor's race. One guy has a Trump flag down the street from me. There was another guy who had another Trump flag across the way, more towards downtown or the center of the city. My point is, you're unlikely to see a gubernatorial or a presidential sign, but I've seen Bianco signs. I have not seen Hilton signs. Why does this matter? It says to me that the grassroots energy really isn't there for Hilton. That's why I don't trust the polls. I challenge them. Sheriff Bianco, he was at a recent event. He said, don't listen to the polls. I think there's some truth to that. Now, how do I justify this? Because I can go back 5 months and I saw Bianco and Hilton in the top 2. I looked at that not just from the polling, but just the mathematics. You had all of these Democrat candidates with their different identity politics constituencies pulling apart the Democrat vote. Now, some Democrats have dropped out, and this has caused things to narrow a bit. But I just look at social media. I'm looking at Facebook. I'm looking at Republican groups that I usually don't visit that often, and I see Bianco, Bianco, Bianco. California Post, you mentioned it. They've been very pro-Hilton. You can tell. And there was a post about how Steve Hilton said, Chad Bianco, you need to drop out. We got to make sure one Republican gets in. But all of the comments on the Instagram post, for example, were for Bianco. They said, nope, we're supporting the sheriff. We're not budging on this. This is why I think the polling can't really be trusted. I mean, and then a lot of people, look, Hillary Clinton was supposed to win. She had an 85% chance in 2016. We all know how that turned out. Kamala Harris, they had her 1 or 2 points ahead of Trump in the swing states. She lost all of them. I think that a lot of the polling, I'm kind of curious, where are they getting the data? What is the sample size? All of these factors come into play. So we're going to find out June the 2nd. Was I right or was I wrong? That's a risk I'll take, and I'll reflect on it from there. There'll be a lot to talk about. I am confident that there will be a Republican. I'm keeping my word. I'll vote for Hilton if he's the one, if he's the only one on ballot. I just don't have the same energy for him just because he's had a pretty liberal record. Maybe it was a mistake that Sheriff Bianco didn't speak at more of those debating events. I don't know what the reasoning behind that was, because there was a lot of events before the cutoff date, the first week of March. I think that was the reason why. We have all these candidates who are running around wanting to contest the nomination. And, you know, we saw the state Senate president, Tony Atkins, she was a formidable figure. She would have been the first lesbian governor if she had gotten elected. So there's her identity politics. She dropped out. You had the current lieutenant governor, Elena Kounalakis. She dropped out. So I think that might have been part of the reason why the Bianco campaign held off until after the cutoff date. We'll see. Well, who knows what happens? But this has been a very exciting. It's been an exciting season nonetheless. For the first time, we had real bona fide, energetic candidates. Even Steve Hilton, even he is a step above John Cox and Brian Dawley and Meg Whitman. There's an articulateness. There's a commitment to some ideas, to some energy. There's a caring about, the immigration issue has certainly become more pronounced. I know that Hilton has spoken on that. Bianco, much better, of course. He's the sheriff. He works with ICE. Don't believe the lies. Those are my thoughts on it. I also hope that I think we're going to have what we hope to get in 2022. In 22, it was like a red trickle. We were expecting a tsunami. I think we're going to get the tsunami this year because the Democrats are even crazier. They're even crazier.
Right.
The numbers are better. Right. We see a more aggressive effort by President Trump to shore up the congressional districts, to shift them our way. Alabama got on board. South Carolina is full of rhinos, so they're holding off. However, this is opening the door. This is building on the previous point about Trump is stepping in and clearing out the rhinos. He is doing this at the state level. That is really important. Republican voters in red states like Indiana, South Carolina, Wyoming, Idaho, they think that everything's just fine because they vote red. And what they're not realizing, or what finally some of the voters are picking up on, is that Democrats run as Republicans. They get elected and they vote like Democrats once they get in the legislature. Yeah. President Trump cleared out all those rhinos in Indiana. He's going to clear out a bunch of rhinos in South Carolina because they have frustrated the redistricting effort there. I hope he'll get involved in the Idaho race, the Wyoming. I've wanted him to get involved in California, but, he's got to pick his fights. Like you said earlier, a Trump endorsement's the kiss of death in too many places in this state. The voters are at fault. I don't blame Trump for that. The voters are the problem, but red states should act like red states, and Trump has a chance to really turn up the heat in the ongoing election cycles. That's what I'm hoping for. So those are my thoughts, but I love the fact that he's cleaning house. Paxton is going to be a great U.S. Senator. Letlow is going to be an improvement in Louisiana. I don't know what he can do between now and 28, but John Thune is going to be up in 28 for sure. And I can't wait to have a sitting majority leader lose his seat in a primary and be replaced by a better Republican.
I don't understand why there hasn't been a consortium of senators who are rising up against Thune continuing as leader. I don't get it. They did it in the House with Kevin McCarthy, and
that was great when they vacated the chair.
It was fantastic. Why is nobody in the Senate doing that? Challenging.
That is a great question. The thing about the Senate, whether we like it or not, is there's such an attachment to collegiality. They are much more partner oriented. You have to, because you need 60 votes for cloture. So you have to work with everybody. When Trent Lott was the majority leader, he talked about it was like herding cats. Every senator can just do whatever he wants. It has to be a very carrot approach. The stick approach is not effective in the Senate. That's just the way it works. That kind of confrontational, in-your-face, stick-based politics, that works in the House. The kind of block voting, you better vote this way. Nancy Pelosi would chase down members of her caucus, even confronting them in the bathroom. You will vote this way, or I'm going to take you down. That kind of stuff works in the House. You cannot do that in the Senate. It just doesn't work because they're there for 6 years. They can ride out the media storm. They can ride out the public sentiment, and they can, they're statewide candidates, so they can raise money from different interests. It's a lot harder. I think that's part of it. Maybe we're being a little too difficult on, it doesn't mean we shouldn't demand and really give John Thune a hard time, but the problem is the conference. You've got, I remember this is something that, going back a few years, going back to just last year, right? You had 3 that were running for majority leader. You had Rick Scott of Florida, who was the MAGA, the one that we would have preferred. You had John Cornyn. Cornyn was going to be wanted to be the majority leader. Can you imagine that, right? And then you had John Thune. And so what do you have? Thune was the compromise between the two. Thune was more conservative on paper. And in order to invoke cloture or to enforce the rules or get rid of the filibuster, you need those 51 votes. So we mentioned it. You've got Murkowski, you've got McConnell, you've got Collins, you've lost 3. Tillis won't play ball. Cassidy's going to frustrate everything. So I don't know, maybe, the numbers just aren't there to change leadership at this point. So I'm not trying to give John Thune an easy way out here, but this is part of the problem. It's your conference. We got to get better senators. That's all there is to it.
And say what you will about Turtle, McConnell, Mitch, Cocaine Mitch. He at least was approving judges that were being put through by President Trump, and just extraordinary numbers. He was getting that job done. Thune's not getting that job done either. He is just.
Oh, that's right.
He's pathetic. He's pathetic.
We're not saying the recess appointments. He's dropped the ball on that. Yep. This is a problem. Yeah, this is where everybody should be, raining firestorm on him. He decided to take a vacation after Cornyn, after Trump endorsed Paxton. He said, "Okay, we're going to go home then. Everybody go home." And that was it was kind of like a middle finger to Trump. You're not supporting the conference. To hell with you. We're going to all go home, and we'll come back in June, and we'll figure out the funding for border security and the SAVE Act and all the rest. It's the issue with that, though, whether I spoke to a consultant, he's the real, most of the consultants are garbage rhinos. They just want to line their pockets. This guy's a really good dude. He has helped candidates who have lost, but they're true principled conservatives. And he's explaining to me, the leadership in a chamber, they have a responsibility to defend their members. If they don't do that, it's their head on it. It's their head. And so he has to play the game. John Thune has to go, well, President Trump, you went after one of my people. So boo, shame on you, middle finger. And then he goes and has a pity party.
Despite what it does for the nation, he doesn't care.
He has to go through the motions. He has to play the game. He has to do the theater. But we should be upset about that. We don't need theater. We need results. I couldn't agree more. And he has to have the courage to point out which members of the conference aren't playing ball, or find some way to get them to the table. If Murkowski doesn't want to play ball, then you sit down with her and say, you want those you want those pipelines, don't you? Well, maybe we'll take the money out of that appropriation if you don't want to play. What do you want to do? He could sit down with Susan Collins. A lot of people might hate me for this, but we got to give her a break. She's the best we got. She's a rhino, but she's our rhino. So she's our rhino. So we're going to let her stay. She'll win because she's running against a Nazi, a literal Nazi. He literally has the tattoo on his chest.
I know.
So we give her a break. That's how the game has to be played. She has to be able to be an outsider and not play ball all the time. Trump doesn't attack her. Notice that. Trump doesn't go after her. That ought to tell you all you need to know. We need her in the Senate. Tillis is going to leave. I think what should start happening, because what often a lot of these politicians, when they know their time in office is done, they're looking for the next gig. They're looking for the lobbyist job or the consulting job. So what Thune and Trump should be doing, a suggestion, they should talk to all the marketing, they should talk to all the lobbyist firms and say, you know what, we're going to make sure you never have a job in this town after you're in office unless you start playing ball. We will make sure that you come in here for any organization you work for, you'll get nothing that you want. That might be the only way to make it work. I don't know. But we're not seeing that from Thune. We're not seeing a real effort to get the caucus in line.
No,
that's true. Maybe you brought up a great question. It's like it's a 53-47 split. You know, so if somebody challenges the leader, do they have 51 votes to elect someone else? That's what it comes. It's always going to be this math problem. But I do think they're looking into it. I think they are making noise about it. I think a lot of conservatives like Mike Lee and Ted Cruz, they can't say it publicly, but they're glad that Cornyn is gone and Cassidy is gone. I know Murkowski's going to have a challenge in 28. The governor, Mike Dunleavy, great conservative, MAGA all the way, endorsed by Trump both times. He's going to challenge her, and he's going to win. So little by little, these things are coming into place. But we're also running into another issue. Here we are getting into the civics of it. The Senate was precisely designed to resist outside pressures. That's something we also are going to run into. The whole idea of the Senate is that they would do their own thing, wouldn't listen to the president, wouldn't listen to the people. They were supposed to be more of that upper class, aristocratic chamber that would cool the passions of the House, that would resist the challenges of time and try to do what was best for the country. Of course, they need to do what's best for the country. And that's part of the problem. They're not doing that. So these are all the factors we're dealing with right now when it comes to John Thune and company.
Well, back to California. Local action equals national impact. So June 2nd, Tuesday, June 2nd, next week, here it is.
People are voting. I'm so thrilled. Republicans are outperforming the prior trends. This is great. They are energized. This is good news. I am so happy that Hilton and Bianco, people have been bashing each other on social media. It means they're excited. I love this. Nobody cared about everybody. People love Travis Allen, and he was okay. And John Cox was kind of an empty suit. He was kind of a wet noodle. Nobody was really energized, but people are really fired up about this election. And that means bigger turnout, and it's getting better. And you know what? If Democrats don't know what to do, that's going to help us all the more. I don't believe the polling. None of us should believe the polling. I just saw a recent poll showing Bianco at the top and Hilton at number 4. So it's all over the map. A lot of this stuff, I have gotten 18 pieces of mail. I'm a high propensity voter. I think that's the reason I'm getting targeted. I have gotten 5 mailers from Tom Steyer. 5. I'm a registered Republican. You can see that on the voter rolls. And I'm getting Tom Steyer stuff. I've gotten emails from a PAC that's targeting Steve Hilton. So, they're nervous. They're just like flooding mailboxes, hoping to get the turnout up. And it's not working so far.
No, and every single one of their commercials, every single one on the left, every one, no exception. Somewhere in the commercial, they will say, and I will stand up against Trump. I will stand up against the Trump agenda, whatever, fill in the blank. Every single commercial for any Democrat has that somewhere in it. And I do hope and pray that we are, as our fellow Californians finally rise up and go, screw you. Please. We think he's doing a great job. Yes. You're not going to keep us. You're not going to intimidate us. You're not going to keep us down. We're showing up. We're showing up now. And we're not going to ever quit showing up again. That's something what we have to do to ever get this state back.
Something to think about, Democrat turnout. Remember, someone could be a registered Democrat, but that doesn't mean they're voting for a Democrat candidate. That's something to think about too.
Right.
So you can't. And Spencer Pratt, he has really energized voters in LA. Democrats, they have admitted it. The chairman of the LA GOP, she published this on social media. I have Democrat friends, and they are voting for Spencer Pratt. They have admitted this. Things are shifting. Will it be enough? I don't know, because LA is crazy.
Nothing's it's not been done about the illegals voting either. Nothing.
That is a big issue. Well,
millions.
More bargaining. There you go. That's the key problem. But again, if the turnout is lower, it should not enough Democrats are voting. So that's, hey, the illegals aren't voting, That's the one thing to look at it. We'll see what happens come June 2nd. President Trump, I pray the Supreme Court is going to issue their ruling. Election day means election day. That should be coming any time. We know it's going to go our way. The question is, how will it be implemented?
That's
how
for federal elections, though.
So
the state of California will do what it wants to do.
Oh,
yeah, and that means the governor's race will be dragged out for months if they have to keep printing fake ballots to try and cut down on that lead. That will happen. That's why we needed the Save America Act desperately.
Yes.
It's not there. It didn't happen.
So this is a chance. We got to hang this around every rhino. And Trump, this is the other thing why Trump is so important, is that he keeps the issue in the forefront. Because Bill Cassidy voted to convict in 2021. Most voters stopped paying attention after 5 minutes. 5 years later, Trump just said, he's got to go. He voted to convict me. He's not MAGA. He kept it in the public eye. And I know Trump is going to be able to serve that purpose, fulfill that role.
Because the media has been calling us election deniers, and the media will, every single time they do any kind of reporting about the 2020 election, every report, radio and television, I hear, and in newspaper, I hear them say the same thing. It's been the false allegations of a stolen election. They say some form of that in every single story that comes up about the 2020 election. They're still doing it. It's still going on, and they keep spoon feeding this out to everybody. Oh no, it's not a real deal. And even anybody who dares to question it, they're just some kind of nutbag conspiracy theorist. Don't listen to them. But you're right. President Trump keeps bringing it up, even though the media tells him not to.
This is something he's very good at, and I think that his successor, whether it's Rubio or Vance or DeSantis, we've got three really good. I mean, we're not just talking good, they're really good. I mean, we've got it taken care of, and we can still have a choice. The Democrats, they've got Kamala. She was the top polling candidate. I saw a recent survey. They want Kamala again? I mean, have they want to hurt themselves more? They just haven't had enough pain? I'm stunned. I can't believe they would be this masochistic, but I'm like, please run, Kamala, run, please run. It would be just, it would just make her. I mean, we'd see other states becoming more, competitive. Maybe Minnesota would finally flip. For example, Democrats don't like Kamala Harris in California. I know that. I don't know what polling they're taking, because she's getting like 35% of the vote, and then Buttigieg gets 15%, and Gavin Newsom gets 5%. Gavin Newsom will not be the nominee. Not going to happen. I will be happy if that happens. It's not going to happen. Please.
I hope you're right.
Not going to happen. But the thing is, if she's getting 35%, right, that's 65 she's not getting. There's lots of Democrats, they cannot stand this woman. And they're liberal, progressive crazies, and they can't stand her. She's wishy-washy. She has no character. She has no commitment. She wants to be pro-Israel and pro-Gaza. A lot of Democrats are trying to do that. That's never going to work. You have to be totally pro-terrorist. You can't support Israel at all. You have to practically become a Nazi, like the guy in Maine. It's the only way that the Democrat grassroots will give you a chance. That's how bad it is for them. But of course, we shouldn't rest on our laurels. This is our chance. I love that Trump doesn't stop fighting. I wish, I wish that he would get more involved in the in the local elections. I'm looking forward to that in 2028. We were doing stuff in Idaho. We've been, pushing our resolution against Obergefell. I can talk about mass resistance briefly. We had this horrible state senator named Jim Guthrie, a total rhino. He would shut down every conservative proposal. State legislatures, they have a procedure. It's called drawer, or to put it in the drawer. A bill will come to the committee, and they just won't hear it. They'll just sit on it. And this is California does it all the time. They've even broadened those rules. So a lot of great bills die before they don't even get a hearing. They just get put on an agenda and they never get heard. And so we had a National Guardsman. You're just like you, Idaho National Guard, you're California. And David Worley, we were supporting you and everything. He came within 500 votes of taking out this rhino. It was the most expensive legislative race. $500,000 was spent in this tiny little Idaho State Senate district. A state assembly seat in California is 500,000 voters. In Idaho, it's 50,000. Can you imagine $500,000 flooding a district with 50,000 people. That's what happened. Trump needed to step in. You had conservatives trying to push immigration enforcement in Idaho. Every bill was killed. How does this happen? This is ridiculous.
I wonder why he didn't.
So he wasn't paying attention. I think that's what it comes down to. He's got 19 things in his face, and then there's 25 the next day. Somebody has to make that effort, though. They really do. That's no excuse, because state legislatures need to advance this agenda too. They need to get on board to help the federal government, and they're not.
They have to know that you cannot rest on your laurels when it comes to what's traditionally a red state, because there's been so many Californians and infiltration of the left going into these areas on purpose, trying to change the demographic, trying to do a red state, make it purple. That's their goal. That's what they're doing. They're moving to these states just to do that. Texas, it's been happening like crazy. That's their goal. They ruined where they lived. They're still going to move somewhere that's better than what they just ruined for the rest of us to have to deal with, who can't afford to leave. And then they go to other states and they continue voting like the idiots that they were when they ruined where they came from. They don't quit. That's why so many in other states hate we Californians, and I can't blame them. But we're turning these areas purple.
The good news, I will say there's a silver lining, and it's the Lone Star State in Texas. This is stunning. Now we can talk about state politics. So Paxton beat an incumbent, but the agricultural commissioner, he had some corruption issues. He got beaten. So that incumbent lost in the primary. The railroad commissioner, he lost in a primary. Dan Crenshaw, one of the biggest big government, big war rhinos, he lost his primary in Texas. Conservatives are clearing out the rhinos in Texas. It is phenomenal. It is a sight to behold. And Trump got involved in those state elections. He was very keen on the school choice issue. He and Greg Abbott have worked together, and they started targeting the bad state legislators. That's the same thing he needs to do in every state. He's just somebody's got to make the time, sit down and make the case to him. You're trying to stop open borders. Well, we got some sheriffs here. There was a sheriff in Alabama, a Republican, and he refused to work with ICE. Refused. He got knocked out in the primary at the Alabama elections. It's worth it. He needs to start making that effort. He's got to push it further. I love it. He's going to clean out South Carolina. That is one of the reddest states on paper, and yet it is so rhino. It is unbelievable how backstabbing these Republicans are in the state legislature. They didn't even pass constitutional carry until 2024. That movement had started all the way back in 2010, with Arizona kicking in, and then it was every year there was a state added to the list. And then finally South Carolina jumped on board in 2024. I mean, that's how long it took. That's how liberal it is. People need to wake up, pay attention, get busy on this. Daily Wire did an incredible 3-part series on red states that don't vote that way. What's going on? South Dakota, notoriously bad. Our resolution against Obergefell, it's been voted down both times in committee. They are the most notorious rhinos. The incumbent governor is about to lose, and there's a Freedom Caucus movement that's trying to clean out those rhinos. Moving forward, I pray that Trump will step in, choose the right people. This is what needs to happen. And, come a day, we'll see some blue states getting some Trump help. New York, there's a chance there. There's Blakeman. He's the chief executive for Nassau County. He has a chance. He's gotten Trump's endorsement. He hasn't run away from it. There's a lot of opportunities here. And we got to sum up with, I am so glad that Thomas Massey is gone. I loathe that man. I am so disappointed. He's a bigger traitor than Marjorie Trader Greene. This guy was a health freedom advocate. This guy was a principled libertarian conservative. And then for him to jump on the podcast bandwagon and trash Trump at every turn sickened me. This guy, he wasn't getting kicked out because it wasn't about Israel. Well, Israel was a part of it ultimately. That's true. But the bigger thing is he voted against border security. He voted against the caucus over and over again. I wrote about this in my latest article. Trump's the boss, folks. He's the one calling the shots. It's like Massey was part of the McCarthy regime. Don't give me this crap that he was some principled conservative. He voted against the motion to vacate. A lot of people don't know this. It's kind of wonky, but I knew I just couldn't stand this guy. He was on the rules committee. This guy is always bellyaching about how there's too much spending in Washington. 2023, that horrible debt ceiling increase came to the rules committee. He had the chance to kill it. He was the tie-breaking vote to advance it to the floor. And this is a game they play. They'll pass the bill along, and then they'll vote against it on the floor when they could have killed it in committee. So it was
AKA John McCain voting against tearing down the Obama Act.
There you go. That's what it all comes down to. Massey was about Massey. Massey was about headlines. Massey was about grift. And you know what? I do agree. When you're saying that there's genocide in Gaza, you're lying. You're telling me 2 + 2 = 5. When you're telling me that Trump is trying to shield predators in the Epstein list, you are lying. And I'm not going to tolerate it. And neither did Trump. Good for him. And he won that fight. I'm so thrilled. And you know what? These people who are stepping in, they're not rhinos. They are furthering the agenda. The guy who took Marjorie Trader Greene's place, Clay Fuller, he is perfect. He does the job. No drama. Just get the job done. And he's doing it. He's doing it. So Trump's been making some good choices.
Good. It'll be interesting to see the effect in New York and other flaming blue states if Steve Hilton pulls out a win after President Trump's endorsement of him for governor. As for me, I'm a Lewis Herms guy, Daniel Mercury guy, Leo Zaki. I love all the grassroots folks, and that's who I wished would have been able to push through and get enough. I tried. Heaven knows I tried. But it's coming down to Hilton and Bianco. And since, especially now that President Trump has endorsed Steve Hilton, a lot of folks on our side are saying, well, that does it. I'm going to vote for him because my president said to. I'm not, because we have a jungle primary here.
Yes.
And the top 2 vote getters go on to the final vote in November. That's why primary is so important. Elections are won and lost in California in the primary election. And if we could get 2, so you go ahead and vote for Hilton, I'm going to vote for Bianco. And they're going, oh, you're splitting the vote. Yeah, you're right. So if everybody's overwhelmingly voting for Hilton because President Trump said so, I'm going to vote for Sheriff Bianco because I want 2 Republican candidates going for governor in November. That'll freak out this left party here. Their stupid majority that they've had for decades, all because of this jungle primary thing that has ruined us in this state. Now we get a chance to actually use it against them. That's why I wanted us to do a dual endorsement in the Republican Party of California, and they wouldn't do it, not even consider it. Somebody brought it up and tried to do a point of order and on the floor and say, let's please do this right now. We should have done it from the beginning. Let's do it now. And he was gavelled out and shut down and shut up and turned off his microphone. So it is what it is. I'm still going to vote for Sheriff Bianco.
Awesome. I'm so glad that I was able to bring you over. and my argument especially is the people like the normie Republicans that are just like basic MAGA, they're going to vote for Hilton, but the grassroots that are extra, are hustling out there, they can vote for Bianco. That's how I've said it, and then you get your top 2. That's been my argument. So let's see what happens. If I'm wrong,
there's a whole bunch of Democrats who have refused to get out. Pages and pages of them. Pages and pages of them.
We have a chance here.
And so this is brilliant. This is going to be an opportunity for us to have 2 Republican candidates going for governor in November. So either way, whether it's Hilton or Bianco in the end, we're going to have a Republican governor again after 18, 19 years of not having one. Yes?
See what happens. I hope.
Okay. Okay.
Let's turn this around.
All right, Arthur. You can find him on his blog spot. That's always a great way to start. He's on several different platforms and soon to be yournews.com too. But go to his blog spot and you'll always see all of his writings and you can find out where to find him from there. And that's A Schaper, the letter A, Schaper, A Schaper, and then the number 1.
Right.
.blogspot.com and start there. I love your writings. I love what you do. You make me laugh. You make me think. And that's what I look for in a commentator and a writer and an editorialist and a reporter too sometimes. So find them there. And also, most importantly, massresistance.org. You're doing
Yes.
such great work there. Find out what they're doing, especially now. It's Pride Month, brother. Pride Month is
it's
back.
coming. Oh, I know. There's more hope than failure. A lot of businesses have pulled away from the DEI crap. I don't, you would be about, this is the last month of May. You'd see the Pride stuff start surfacing, but so far I haven't seen much. So that gives me
I
a lot
have
of hope.
not seen it like in the past either. You're right. I haven't seen a ramp up. I don't see.
Yes, this is another thing Trump has accomplished. He's really put the screw on big business so they don't force the perversion down our throats. The Long Beach Pride Festival, they had to cancel it. Tucson, Arizona, they had to Tucson Pride shut down entirely. This has been a big win because they're not getting the USAID money. It's government money that has to prop this stuff up because nobody in their right mind would support this of their own free will. So this is
absolutely it. All right, brother. I'll talk to you soon, man. Thanks for coming on.
Amen. Thank you.
And you want to help my show, of course. Once again, you can always do it through my website at charleesimons.com, which is right there. CharLeeSimons.com, CharLeeSimons, and get yourself one of these big old 15-ounce coffee mugs. Let's talk about politics and religion. And of course, it's red. And we've got shirts and hats and all kinds of fun stuff there. Or you can just make a donation through there. You'll be helping me. And frankly, this I desperately need a better computer. I've been having a lot of problems lately getting on the air, and plus it's costing me money too. So if you could help, I sure would help. I sure would appreciate it, please, at CharLeeSimons.com. May God bless you and keep you. May God bless America. But most importantly, America, bless God.